Here we go. I think the sound is probably of a poorer quality today, since I'm streaming from the office using my headset. So please bear that in mind. But it seems like the volume is all right at least, but not this same quality mic as I have in my home setup. Let's see if I can get the webcam to work also. No, let's see. Here we go. Computer cam enabled. So a little view from the office. Mandatory Java coffee mug. And it's from the Sun Microsystem days when Sun owned or developed Java. All right. I will be watching the chat in YouTube as usual, and please add any questions there if you have them. Right, let's move on. So the course, let's take a look at the study plan. An eventful week. So the deadline for assignment number 2 has passed, and there are a number of submissions. I have not started looking at them, but we have at least agreed on a procedure to look at them, and me and Nadim, and we will hopefully start examining those in kind of like a couple of days or something like that. As you probably understand, I'm quite busy with the exam, checking all of your comments and awarding bonus points right and left. Now, I'm pretty conservative with the bonus point, as this is the first time we do the test, so you have multiple chances to pass, and well, you learn a lot also about kind of like just doing the test and thinking about the questions and providing your comments and reading my comments also. I think currently I have checked all of you who had the score of 8, and actually quite weird. Anyway, that was so odd. I'm working on those of you who got 7, but as I've explained, it's very hard probably to get 2 bonus points. It can happen, but don't get your hopes up if you have 7 points or less that you will get the passing score. So I guess maybe that's it for the test. Well, there's a new chance on Thursday next week, so be prepared for that. Take a look at your comments and my comments on your comments, and you will probably get some ideas on how to think for these questions. And for the pattern questions, well, why not draw all of the patterns as a class diagram and try to compare them and see what makes them special so that you can differentiate between them more easily. And as I've said before, you need to know the UML relations between these classes to do that. So that's the basic knowledge. And if you have that as perfect as possible, then you have probably earned some points on the test, and also you have more time to spend on the more questions that rely more on you being able to read and reason about things a little bit. So don't waste time on simple notational questions. That is knowledge you should just have. Okie dokie. So other things that happened during this week was that we actually started on a suggested solution for for assignment number 2. So we did some implementation at the Campus Kalmar, and we got a little bit on the way at least last Tuesday. So you find this partially functional project in a link in Slack and on GitLab, so you can take a look at the code there. But I'm guessing this is really not that surprising. We have model view and controller. The model was basically what we looked at, and it's important to pick the right branch here also. Model view and controller, and you have the domain, and in the domain you have the boat, we have the member, we have a member registry. We added some interesting classes for the name and the member identifier and the personal number. These are more or less just placeholders for future development, and they basically just hold a string for the name and the personal number and things like that. I took the liberty to implement the boat class outside of the lecture. So we have a boat with a type and a length. So basically that's it. And the important aspect that we saw here was the member registry holds all of the members and then needs to be responsible for this, ensuring that all of the members in the registry has a unique member ID. So we have this add member function, add new member function, and basically we randomize a member ID and we check that this is unique, and if it's not, we create another member ID and use that instead. Actually, we create a whole new member. We also did this thing where we used a person class to transport the name and the personal number instead of using parameters here. It was just a neat idea, maybe. I'm guessing that most of you don't have that. Another important aspect is the encapsulation of this field here, the members, so that you don't return the actual array list in the member registry. Solutions are to use an iterable instead, because all collections in the Java standard libraries are iterable, so you can go through them, but you cannot manipulate them, and that's the important aspect. You can also make a copy of this array list and return that. So 2 solutions to this problem. So the problem is that you should not be able to add a faulty member into this data type here. So you need to take care about that. My standing mantra is that it should be easy to do the correct thing, to do the right thing, and it should be hard to do mistakes. And if you expose internal variables, internal collections of stuff, somewhere someone is gonna make a mistake, and that's can mess things up severely for you. And it breaks this basic principle of object orientation that information should be encapsulated. Don't return references to internal objects. You need to think about that. Then we have, let's take a look. Hey ho, I'm not that smart. Let's take a look at, for example, the view. We just did one big view out of everything, for now at least. Use an enum to encode the actions you can do in the menu. So you have this present the main menu function with the options, and this translates what's input on the keyboard into actions, so the controller can ask for the actions instead of handling the numbers. And yeah, you know, this hidden dependency thing. We implemented the functionality to remove a member, and that was done using, well, a list of members, an iterable of members, so we can print all the members, and the view lists these members. It adds an index to each of them, and then it asks the user, oh, which member would you like to delete? And you type 5 or 17 or whatever, and then the view iterates this list again and finds out which object is actually number 17, and then that member is returned, and the controller can then tell the registry to delete this object. So you don't need to pass strange strings between functions and things like that. Just use the objects. All right. Take a quick look at the controller. It's, maybe you saw this class it's quite the largest one, I think, of all of the classes, and that's pretty much what you get often. The user interface is often at least half of the code. But we have a facade controller, maybe, named master, and has quite few lines of code. But yeah, we show the main menu, we figure out what we want to do, and then we do that. So we can remove the member, then we ask the user interface for the member to remove, and when we get something back, we ask the registry to remove this member, and so on and so forth. So not really that complicated, I guess. Looking at the class diagram that we developed on at Campus Växjö, it looks something like this. What a mess. But this is probably what you get. We had a little bit of luck, or what we could call it, that this hard-coded loader, it creates all of these objects and inserts it into the member registry and creates a member registry also. So it's actually dependent on everything here. And that was a bit of luck, because then we can use this dependency to the package instead of having all of these dependencies. This is unfortunately not the case for the console UI, since it does not know anything about the member registry. It just knows about the members, the person, the name, and the personal number, the member ID, and the boat. And this is maybe, yeah, having a diagram that looks like this could trigger you to do some refactoring here to try to make this better, of course. But this is quite typical for user interfaces. They will depend on a lot of things in the model. Owned boats should, of course, also be private. Same thing for the controller, basically. It depends on the view, and it depends on a lot of things in the domain also. So the person and the member registry specifically, it actually does not depend on these more detailed stuffs right now, at least. Possibly we could do another package maybe in the domain and call that data or something like that, and have at least the member ID, the personal number, and the name in that, and you would save a number of arrows in that case. And or this whole big class console UI should be divided in some way to better become less dependent on it, have lower coupling to the domain in general. So maybe a view for the member or a view for the boat or something like that, because this class console UI, as we saw, is also starting to become a little bit large and maybe a little bit overloaded with responsibility. So that could be a refactoring to think about. But yeah, I'm guessing that your stuff would look something like this, and maybe you won't have this personal number, member ID, and name classes, but maybe just member registry, member, and boat, and that's fine. If you opt for the higher grades, you will probably need to create the personal number and maybe the name classes also to have places to put the behavior or responsibility related to the personal number and the name. All right, we did not do a sequence diagram yet. Those are so messy to create, so maybe we will do one. But we actually did something else at Campus Växjö, and that was take a look at the visitor pattern. And we did that in the context of this boat club, and which is maybe not a super good example, but it's at least one example of visitor that you can study. So we have this branch grade 2 over engineered, because I don't think this is really the best way or the pragmatic way to do this. The pragmatic way is to do it as we did it in the normal branch, the grade 2 branch. But the idea was that, well, maybe we have this thing called the boat club element, and the member registry is a boat club element, and the boat is a boat club element, and the member is also a boat club element. So this interface actually just then accepts a visitor, so the boat club visitor, and this visitor has a few methods, and it's basically to visit the member and visit the member's boats, and then after we have visited all of the boats, we get another message called post visit. So in these two, so if we take a look at the member, for example, it implements this boat club element interface, and this means that it has the accept method, and what is happening is that you call visit with a member object, with the member object that has accepted the visitor. Then you call check that all of the boats accept the visitor, and they in turn call visit for each boat. And finally, we have this post visit function. So using this, we can display our lists, and we do that, of course, then in the view. So we added two implementations of the boat club visitor interface. And the first, simplest, just prints the member's name, and then prints that the member has a boat. We could probably add some things here now, and does really nothing more. And for the compact list printer visitor, we have a counter so that we can count the number of boats in the member. And when we visit a member, we reset this counter. When a boat is visited, we increment the counter, and when all of the boats has been visited, then we can print the member and the number of boats of the member. So basically, this is these two implementations of the visitor for the boat club. That then enables us to print lists. I'm thinking a little bit on how to develop this further, and maybe we can do something about that for example, maybe we shouldn't send a member here. Maybe we should send a person instead and the member ID separately, because we will get all of the boats visited. And for a boat, maybe we should send the boat type and the length instead of the boat object. That would maybe make it a little bit less coupled. But then again, we actually want to visit the boats maybe also. So I'm not really sure about the design there right now. But at least we would optimally not need to have the print list methods in the console UI class. So we will remove some code from there at least. And maybe this will mean that this console UI class will not depend on the member anymore, because possibly you can utilize these lists instead for that purpose. Yeah. All right. If we take a quick look at the controller and see how this is actually used. So we create a boat club visitor implementation, and in this case we use the compact list, and then we just ask the registry to accept this visitor, and then everything will be printed. We can of course implement some other type of visitor here. So if we can create a visitor for calculating the membership fee, for example, because, well, if it's dependent on the number of boats, we can compute that and return and get a membership fee or something like this. And so we can add functionality to the member registry, to the members and to the boats without actually adding this functionality to the classes. And this is a typically interesting case when you want to keep things as cohesive as possible, but also have this flexibility of being able to add functionality. And in this case, we could add functionality to print the member registry in different lists with the members and the boats in different ways. But we could, of course, imagine other types of functionality that we would like to have there. But yeah, as I said, this is quite a complicated and maybe a little bit of a more of an exercise than an actual design that I would recommend for this assignment. But yeah, you can always take a look at it, and debug step it is always a good idea. So set a breakpoint here and see what happens actually when we call accept on the registry and we add this visitor to it. Yes, next week it's pretty much as usual, working on assignment number 3. I started to get some questions, so it's I think it's a good assignment, and yeah, I don't think it takes that much of time to do it actually, at least if you have some experience and know about the strategy pattern well. So should be able to finish this one off quite quickly, at least for the passing grade. But yeah, don't hesitate to ask questions or start working on the assignment. But maybe you deserve a weekend off also. I will continue with the tests and try to get as many comments for those of you that did not pass as soon as possible, so you can study that and study my comments on your comments and see what is actually meant. And we have a new opportunity for the test on Thursday next week. I will be doing things at campus on Tuesday as usual, and also travel to Växjö on Thursday as usual. So there are opportunities to talk to me then also. Otherwise, I'm happy, so I hope you are happy too, and don't be too discouraged if you did not complete the test. The test is, as I said, quite hard, but now you know the extent of it and how it works, so I hope you get a better result and a passing grade for the next time. All right. Bye bye.